episode of Pick Money, the podcast. My buddy Andrew Cartwright here. How you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, dude. I'm sitting with you. I'm excited, dude.
I'm excited.
It's great. I'm glad you made it here. I really appreciate you coming. And I really would like to, because I always want to, I can read what I read and I can hear what I hear, but tell us, and listen, I know who you are. A lot of people know who you are. I knew who you are before I even met you. But talk to us about Andrew Cartwright and what you want to start with letting us know about you before I get into some questions I got for you.
I think the biggest thing is I'm passionately committed to helping other people succeed, to become wealthy, to become rich beyond their dreams. And I'm more committed to it than they are.
Where'd that come from?
I think it comes from just a burning desire. Like, I think as a kid, when I was 12, I had this, I got to prove it when my dad cut me off financially. So
Your dad cut you off financially?
My dad cut me off financially when I was 12 years old. I got a roof over my head and food in my belly, but everything else I had to work for.
Your mom and your dad raised you, or just your dad?
Mom and dad.
Mom and dad. Your dad said what? Walk us through, what was that conversation at 12 years of age?
So I come home from school, and I'm walking through the door. And my dad's fingers, like that's a finger of my dad, to give you an idea.
He's a big man.
Big dude, bearish kind of guy.
Yeah.
Very tough, old school.
Like those meat cleaver hands. They hit you like somebody dies.
And, this is my stepfather. So he's like immigrated in from Greece, didn't speak English when he started raising me.
Wow.
Like literally didn't speak English. And he grabs me by the arm, lifts me up in the air like I just walked through the door, right? So I'm dangling from my dad's arm. He drags me into the room, throws me on the bed, right? I'm sitting there, and he goes, "Listen." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "I thought I did something wrong." And obviously, when you're a kid, you've done something.
You've done something. You just don't know what it is. I got caught. I don't know what I got caught for.
I don't know what I got caught for, but man, you did something, and all the things go through your head. And he said, when I was 12 years old, I was on the streets and I was making my own money at 12 years old.
Wow.
He went to 5th grade. That was as high as his education. And here's a guy that is a contractor, had me on construction sites at 7 years old. I don't know if that's OSHA approved, but,
But you're alive.
Not trying to throw him under the bus. I made it here. But basically, he's like, I had to make it on my own. You need to too. So you can't ask for your mother like money. And unlike maybe traditional families, when my dad said something, I had to that was the law.
Yeah.
And if I questioned it, he made it worse. So, if he was going to put me on restriction for a week and I questioned it, it'd be a month. And if I questioned that, it'd be 3 months. And if he said something, it happened. His credibility score, as far as his delivery on what his word was his bond. There was no separating it from it. So at 12 years old, he told me that he said, "You're going to have to make your own money, and very soon you're going to have to take care of a woman, and you're going to be the kind of man that's going to take care of a woman. That's who I'm raising."
Wow.
So
so where's your biological father?
My biological father, I think it was about 3 years old, because I had another abusive stepfather between the two. He just one day left.
Who was that?
And I remember just my glimpse, him being at the stair, me being at the stairway, and him saying he would be right back, and he didn't come back.
He never came back.
So but I saw him every 2 weeks. So he did the obligatory father thing of seeing me every 2 weeks. He's not a bad guy. I love my father. It's not like we're really close. We're more friends.
Yeah.
And he's always been more of a friend than a father. And I think the reason why is because my stepfather played such a hard role of raising me that I think he felt like an outsider that was outside of our relationship. And I remember him being at soccer games, and my stepfather would be just yelling like crazy at me, like one of those passionate, crazy fathers. That was my dad. And lose his voice every game. And then on the other side, with when it came to my biological father, he just felt like he was ghosted.
Plus, it's easy to be in a shadow with your stepfather.
Yeah,
because he cast a big shadow.
Oh, he was a very loud and contractor and life of the party. And my mom and dad were like, stepfather were just like the epitome of love.
Really? That's great.
Yeah.
Were they still together? They still...
They were together, I think, like, I don't know, 15 years or something like that, and or maybe 13 years. I don't think they ever stopped loving each other, but they had a business together, the construction business. My dad got a partner, and those partners didn't want him to communicate about finances anymore. And my mom, who graduated, I think, from 9th grade, went back to school to learn accounting so she could run the business. So she ran the back end of the construction business, and man, was she good with money. It's where I got my financial blueprint, because no matter, you can take everything away from me, in a few years, I'll be a multimillionaire again.
Yeah.
Like literally and I think that's why God's made me the way he has, is because of that. My mom has an amazing blueprint. Well, when my dad no longer shared with my mom, it drove a huge wedge and I think fear into her, because she didn't feel protected anymore because she couldn't see what was going on with the finances.
Wow.
Which is why I share with my wife everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now you got kids?
I do. I have a son, 38 years old.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. So I love your dream and your passion, because I think, and I want your advice on this for all of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was raised, I'm very different. Like I wasn't, while my mom had no money, my father wasn't around, certainly wasn't around financially, but I never was like, oh my God, one day I'm going to do anything. I was just like, I'm going to get a job. You know, like I went and got a job. I was working I went to the police academy, and then I was like, I'm going to become a social worker, child protective services. I was there for 14 years, worked hard, worked overtime, took care of my kids, took care of my family. But I kind of, by accident, became an independent contractor sales guy. I just was like,
wow,
man, I should make some extra money. That seems pretty cool. Let me give it a shot. It was really that deep. Then it was like, wow, and now it's more. There was that much thought. It was a great plan.
Right.
Yeah, here I am.
Well thought out.
There
5 moves.
you go.
Or
Patrick
Ben
so
David.
give me your business plan. I was like, I got a life insurance license. Started selling some life insurance. Got a real estate license. You have a passion to help people become financially successful.
Absolutely. I write my own paper. I have an unlimited warehouse line too. So I literally make dreams happen.
So you actually got the money. Really, you do. You write the paper.
So literally, I don't need people's tax returns. I took everything out of my credit line. So you don't need tax returns. I don't care what your bank statements are. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what your income is either. If you have a 680 credit score, and I soft pull people because I don't want to mess up their credit. So I soft pull them so they can do lots of deals, because, you want to do
So you soft
deals.
pull them. They got 680.
Soft pull, 680.
You're good.
I'm good. If they got some experience, great. But I've also built it so newcomers can come on and do fix and flip, ground up construction, which you need experience if you're going to do ground up construction. Mm-hmm. We're not going to run off a cliff for somebody. And then we do rentals. So 30-year fixed money. And we're like at bank rates. So,
dude, where were you when I was 21? So I got my real estate license.
That's the thing.
I got my real estate license at 21, and I built thousands of homes in that decade. But when I was starting, I went to this, I think it was called Advantage Mortgage. I'm sure they're not around. And I was like, I remember going to meeting with a guy, and he was like, yeah, it'll be 14%. It'll be 5 points up front, 5 points every 6. And I was like, and I remember looking at him.
Is there any left over for me?
And he looked me square in the eye, which I got to respect him. And he looked me square in his eye. He's a big old school guy. He looked me square in the eyes. He said, son, you wouldn't be here if you didn't need me. And I said, that is true, but that does not mean you need to take fucking advantage of me either.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay. And then I ended up doing the deal with him. I probably if I made myself $2,100 in the project, but I was like, dude, I'm never doing that again. Yeah. But it's funny because it taught me how hard it was to get started. And I just knew I was going to be okay either way. I'm like, I run the numbers. I'll do it. I was also roofing the house. I was pouring the concrete. I was clearing the lot.
You have to know how to. I've done all that.
I was able to do it. All right. So talk to us about that. So right now, how many deals? How many loans? How active is this? Like, how many guys and girls? How many?
We probably get on average, about 100 people a day.
Really?
And then we process it. We've got about 30 people in Long Island, and we process it. Within 15 minutes, we can give people numbers. And I don't want to make this sound like it's easy. Getting rich and getting wealthy is hard work. It's work. This idea that you can just, put stuff in without any work or effort or risk or, being scared. If you're not crazy scared going into a deal, I wouldn't do it. If it were me, you should have a healthy amount of fear no matter what you do.
So the money, is it real estate, all really real estate related, or how does that work?
So the Capital Velocity, my own line, basically, where we write the paper, is for fix and flip, ground up construction, rental, and bridge lending. So rental, if you want to build your wealth, like rental is about building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get rich, right, fix and flip is the way to get rich. There's 30% margin, buy a couple $1 million property, make your 30%, flip it a couple times. Your whole life can change in 3 months. And I know that, people say that, but that's reality.
True.
Within a couple weeks, you can close on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is finding the deal. But they're out there. There are plenty of baby boomers that are ready to exit investment property. There's plenty of deals out there.
So what's the best way for people to find those deals?
Zillow, it's in realtor.com. Like, they're out there. Drive your neighborhoods. Look for grass that's growing or something that needs a little work. The whole key is, and this is the thing that I think most people don't realize, is if you want to guarantee making money or pretty close to it, add value. So when you fix something and you flip it, you're taking something and adding value to it to where someone will want to live in that house, compared to a house they have to live in, compared to having something that people want to live in. And if you can get vinyl planks that are super inexpensive, that are 20-year waterproof, and all of a sudden you look like you have wood flooring. You paint the walls, you change out some trim, do some light rehab. Not only do I lend this money, but I use it too. Okay. So I'm not only
what's an old airline thing? That's right.
Yeah. I'm like, I thought of that. I'm like, because the wife said one day, she's like, honey, I said, yeah. She goes, why are we using our own money? It's the best money out there.
Yeah.
It's like bank rate money, right there, bank rate. That's easy. I'm like, because we worked for 20 years to get to build what we have, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. So if we see a deal we write, if it works, we just write the paper and do it. We'll do deals too.
All right.
So I'm active as well.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I think that because I'm how I've been able to build everything, all start off with real estate. Everything you said, my rentals were building. It took, it doesn't happen overnight.
It's slow. It's a slow bleed.
It's a 14, 15 year, and I got really lucky where everything I owned was in Connecticut within 10 minutes of either Foxwoods or Mohegan Casino.
No kidding.
And I had a company out of China, because they had a lot of citizens there. China. They were coming over and working, and out of the blue, this real estate broker calls me and says, "Hey, would you ever have any interest in parting with your rentals?" I said, "How many?" He said, "All of them." And I said, "Listen, dude, I've been doing this 15 years. If the money was right, I'd blanket this whole thing up." And I got really lucky, because when I say I closed 3 or 4 weeks before COVID was like a deal, and they wanted me to buy them back for pennies in the dollar, 9 months later. But after I saw like rent moratoriums, I was all freaked out. I was like, dude, if the government tells you don't got to pay rent, like, I got my money. I didn't have to hang around. They should have. What they should have done is said, we'll buy, and then make me stay in for a period, but they didn't. They were like, here, we'll take them from you and you're out. I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. But it was a grind,
Yeah.
Fix them. I've done tons of them. I still do them now. I enjoy them. Do a lot, like Brooklyn, New York. I do quite a bit of stuff up there.
I like Brooklyn.
Love Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So when you see people that come in with their own business plan, or when you're looking at these fix and flips, what is something that you see from a success standpoint? If you see, man, if either the person has to have these characteristics, or this partner build them, like, what is something that will help them have a much better chance of success, but also guarantee failure? What are some things you see in a fix and flip outside of, hey, you bought it wrong, you're upside down to begin with? What are some things that you see? You've done a lot of them. You've been lending money on them for a long time. You probably know as much as anybody does.
Yeah.
What do you see in that marketplace for a lot of men and women? They're like, hey, I'm gonna fix and flip. I'm gonna roll. What are you looking for to help success in somebody or their plan?
Transparency and honesty. We can usually work with just about anything, but what's really hard to work with is, like, if your partner, or let's say your partner is in the property and they own half of it, but supposedly they're dead and you own 100% of it, and then we find that they're alive later. right, during the process, that's probably not going to work.
That's a problem.
You know what's crazy about that deal? I still funded that deal.
Wait a minute. Somebody applied.
Yes.
And acted like their partner was dead.
Yes, which happened to be their father. I can't disclose names.
I know that. I'm not asking you to.
I have a banking license.
Father was alive.
Mm-hmm.
Child says, my dad's dead.
Same name. Said that the grandfather was the one that actually passed away.
Wow.
Because the dad had bad credit.
And you still funded it.
Yeah. So I restructured it so that basically the alive father, because his credit was bad, we squeezed him down to 19% so that he doesn't have to sign on the loan, no personal guarantee.
Correct.
And not really a factor in the underwriting process. The hardest part was, I'm talking to my underwriters and they're mad because,
he lied.
Like
they feel misled.
An underwriter's job is to, investigate the truth. So you'd be surprised that if you just simply tell the truth, it's the foundation of character. Yeah, you tell the truth and you're objective and you have a clear path to get to where you want to go, and the margin is there, and the assets bought right, and there's your exit value is there, your after repair value, your ARV. What are we
gonna lie about?
Yeah,
we're good.
The biggest thing that's one. The second thing is thinking that you're going to get one over on your contractors, or your people that you're going to bring in, like people that are going to do the work.
Okay,
right? You bring them in, be transparent, make sure they're transparent, and get everything out on the table. Be careful about change orders. That you don't get stuck with a change order because your contractor can kill your job.
Mm-hmm.
So you want somebody that you really can trust, and also somebody that you can get rid of in the contract if they don't perform, and don't overpay them. The good thing is, with our system that we built, you take a picture of what you did, and within about 24 hours, we fund your account. So if you paint, you take a picture of the painting.
That's your inspection and construction. Like they send the picture.
Yeah, we used to send a person out there, and they used to take pictures and all that. We looked at the cost of that compared to, like, we got a personal guarantee from somebody.
Correct. Like where they're going.
Where you, and we still have the asset. So if they nail us on faking, photoshopping the paint, you
have the asset. You have the personal guarantee.
Yeah. So, and I think by and large, it's making it easy and seamless. And we don't want to delay a project. If somebody can change their life in 3 months, right? You acquire the property, you close in 2 or 3 weeks, you fix it in a month, and you exit in a month. In 3 months, your life can literally change.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not to make that sound, I hate the sound of it easy, because nothing in my life's been easy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
dude, I'll tell you, it's funny you say that, because I was killing myself doing all this other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rentals. I started a waste management company. I was in construction. And I wasn't broke. I was doing good. Don't get me wrong. And my son was going to go to a different school.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, dude, you got to live in town for him to go to school here. And I'm like, dude, but we can move. It's not that big a deal.
Right.
And I'm traveling, and it's 20 minutes from where we live. So I'm traveling, and this realtor calls me and says, hey, you need to see this property on the lake.
Right.
And I was like, well, what's it on for? And she says, $549. So I call a buddy of mine who's just a good dude. I'm like, hey, man, would you go look at it?
Mm-hmm.
I won't be back in town. He's like, sure. So he goes over, takes some video, sends it to me. And I said, all right, I'll give him $499, no inspection. I'll close it in 2 weeks. I'm good.
Right.
And they agree to it. Close on the house.
Most people wouldn't have the guts to drop $100,000 off. That's the thing, is you never know where people are.
You never know.
They might have taken $350.
You never know. So I close on the house, and then I'm out messing around. We got some quads, and I'm driving. I'm like, God, there's a lot of land here. So I called my buddy who's an engineer, when I was doing land developing, and I didn't buy it for that reason. I just assumed all the 12 extra acres were just wet. I just assumed that's why it's 12 acres. So I called him up. It's like, hey, man, I'm going to send you at the surveys and everything, take a look at it. A week later, he calls me. He's like, hey, you have 3 more building lots on the lake. To give you an idea how their life changes overnight. And I'm like,
oh my God, I got it right away.
Holy shit. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So now it gets even. So I'm like, okay, I go to town. I make an application for a 3-lot subdivision.
Yep.
My neighbor, you're facing a lake. My neighbor to the left is crazy wealthy. Runs the his family owns the ferry that runs you from London to Orient Point in New York, and so he's done well. He's this monstrosity of a house in the lake. Well, I mean, well outpriced. He's $5 million. You never want to be the biggest guy in the block. He's by far the biggest guy in the block, and that's fine. He's so he sues the town when I make that because he says I'm screwing him up, traffic, the whole deal. So I'm like, and he's going to these meetings, and I'm like trying to talk to him. He's like 81 years old, and he's like, I ain't talking to you. So I coach football with this guy. We're just bullshitting one day, and he's like, oh, man, do you live over? I said, yeah, we bought the house. He goes, oh, I know your neighbor. I go, how do you know him? He goes, oh, he's crazy. Yeah. I go, I'll give you $10,000 if you get me his cell number. And if I can get him, if it's advantageous, like either I get him to buy it, the lawsuit, if anything benefit, I'm not going to give you $10,000 for getting the number. If you give me the number, he's like, $10,000? I was like, yeah, dude, just the number. He's like, I don't do anything else. I'm like, no, you don't have to beat anybody up. Just give me the number. Gives me the number. I call the guy up. John. He's like, so I tell him who I am. He's like, God. I said, can we talk? He's like, sure. He's very big. He's recluse. He's not coming. He's like, we can talk on the phone. I was like, sure. So I said, he goes, what do you want for it? I said, well, each lot is worth $200,000. I said, 6. I'll sell them to you for, there's no commission. I'll sell them to you, whatever. I think it was $520.
Yeah.
Let me call you Monday. So I said, all right. Calls me Monday. So I talked to my wife. Calls me Monday. Says, I'll do it. I said, okay. And he goes, but I want right of first refusal on the house. I said, okay, but at the appraised value.
Yeah.
Like at whatever the appraised value is.
That's fine.
Gives me $520 for the lots.
So you won't build.
So I don't. He just wants to. And he could have bought, and I'll tell you the rest of it, make it quick. And then 8 months later, I'm like, damn, my son's done with his school year. We don't need to live here anymore. I'm going to sell the house. Yeah. Well, I get it appraised. It's appraised at $705. I'm like, he buys that. I said, John, I got to ask you a question, man. Why didn't you just buy it when it was in the market? He said, you know what? They were at 5, so it was $549. I offered $499, so $50,000. He said I wouldn't go above $475. I said you paid me 1 point.
He's just paid
but people like and it was just. But you're talking about overnight. The guy was doing really well. I'm like, dude, I didn't do anything.
I know.
I called and that's to your point. It's true. Like shit like that happens
every day.
Every day. And then I started going like and I've been very blessed. I'm not.
You know what screws people
stumbled
up?
into more of that. What's that?
Fixed ideas.
Yeah.
Kill dreams.
That's true.
You had an open mind, and you opened his mind. He had a fixed idea called 475.
True.
Right? And what was the cost of his fixed ideas?
It's astronomical.
Right?
For $25,000.
Yeah. Like literally, that was the cost of his fixed idea. And I see that. It's part of like the book I wrote, The Origin of Opportunity, is really about busting down all those fixed ideas. Because even for me, I'm busting down fixed ideas on a daily because my growth is every single day, every minute. I'm looking to grow now in this moment. Yeah. Every moment, right? I want to have a breakthrough, and that's what I'm always looking for.
Well, all right. So you
and
see
that's
these
a great story, by the way. That's
thank you. But it's like, but you
story.
keep saying that overnight. I'm like, he keeps saying it. You're like, I know it sounds corny. I'm like, it can change in a matter of one deal. I like what you said about the contractors because people will call me up and they'll say, hey, you flipped all these houses over here. You've done this over here. Can I get some advice? And I'm like, I listen to their scenario. And I go, why are you trying to screw people over? I mean, you said about your contractor, right? Can you elaborate on that? Because people don't, first of all, once you have a great relationship with good people, oh my God. But what is a mistake that some folks make with their contractor? We know what we understand. We want the contractor to be transparent, change order, the whole deal. What is the investor?
You know what's sad? I have a really unfair advantage here that I've got to disclose. I had a construction company for a decade. So built a bunch of custom homes, was on Flipping Vegas, the Dream Home episode.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay.
Yeah, my house, which is 12,000 square feet with 11 waterfalls, a water slide. You got to come over. We got to do a podcast. I would love to see it, dude. I got it's made for bumper boats, so there's a dock.
Seriously?
And there's a drop, the full kitchen inside the pool. Yeah, beach entry.
I'm totally
do it on a napkin.
I'm totally in.
After a few drinks.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But the reason I say that as a contractor, all the people I worked with, I was complete open book. I'd get 3 to 5 bids, and I would sit there with each one of, my clients and disclose everything. So and sometimes the lowest bidder is not somebody you want to go with.
Correct.
Because I would also take time, the actual labor costs, like what's the trade labor, and then also what's the material cost. I would put it in a spreadsheet and I'd look at it. And you could tell, like if somebody's industry standard, which I've always been like, if somebody's below industry standard and they're not paying people, then they probably don't have the experience to do the job. And then what are you stealing the material?
Yeah. Like, how are you doing it?
Like, yeah, it costs what it costs. And that was something that, for me, when I first started in construction, really had to understand is it's not like, something is, $1 million and they got it for 500,000 and there's not that much margin. Correct. We're talking about people's time and the actual cost of materials. So it costs what it costs. And I think that's the big thing is, people think that if you squeeze people, you'll make more money. You'll slow your process down. And 9 times out of 10, that person's going to bail on you. No one's working for free.
Nor should they.
Nor should they. I've had contractors that underbid jobs and that were, subs. They underbid, and I would stop them and say, you can't do it for this. Yeah. Are you stealing the material? They go, no, I'm not. I said, you're not going to change order me later. If you read the contract, it's time and material. So I don't do change orders. I do time and material. If I'm moving a window down a foot, I'm cutting that, and there's no more wood. The header is the header. You just drop it down. Maybe I'm paying more for a window that you haven't installed yet, but that's cutting a piece of board and moving it 1 foot down, which the time it takes you to do that is all you can charge me because there's no extra material. And you need to read your contract. So let's straighten out your deal so I can keep you on the job and keep you, paying your guys and making money. Because, pay people on time. That's another big thing. Yeah. Like, don't let anybody wait for money. Yeah. Because as soon as you don't pay them, it triggers their entire financial drama. And most people have some financial drama that goes through their head. And as soon as you're a little bit late paying somebody, you'll meet a totally different person. Right?
It's a true statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would, say you're going to pay people in 10 days after the job or something and pay them in 5.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because you can screw somebody over one time. Why would you want to, when I was doing...
And they're going to tell 10 people.
Of course they are.
If not 20.
Of course.
And for the rest of their life, you just created an enemy. And if you like a little bit of money.
Correct.
It's so dumb.
And if you can, listen, I'm all about standing up for yourself. I get it. It was a very interesting, especially when I first started. I remember my first house. I mean, and it's funny because I had a business partner. Last time I ever had a business partner. And he was 25 years older than me. Great dude. But was just like, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We don't. He was your guy. Like, he don't charge for nothing. We can do it. I'm like, Richie, we can't put 2 dormers. Like, we don't have that. We can't, Richie, we can't do. What are you talking about? We can't put those countertops. No, we just can do it. And I'm like, dude, we don't make any money. But I realized he was this was an activity for him, and it was fun. He had a job. He wasn't, by any means, was he killing it. But he also worked at the yard. We bought all the material.
Right.
So I'm like, dude, you make a little bit. He was just happy to have some. We bought quite a bit of material. He made another $150,000 a year. He's like, cool.
Right.
I'm like, dude, but we don't make any money. You owe money.
Right.
So, but I think.
Which is called the capital call.
He was capital call, which is, you better believe it.
Most people get, like, you're going to see a lot of buildings right now because we just pumped up, we had 1% more. So we're at like 10.4% or something default rate in commercial office property as of this last
10.4%.
Just clicked. Yeah.
Really?
So 1 out of 10 are like in bad shape. Wow. Right? So we have generational wealth that have been loaded for like ever, like generations, 100 years, right? And that own major buildings that are 75% empty. In fact, our own government, I think we're occupying maybe 20% of the actual space that we have under lease.
Really?
For the government right now, right? We have like office has been gutted, but nobody's pulled the plug, right? And so they're getting capital calls. These major families, people I know, billionaires, are like, they're used to just getting a dividend check and going to the beach, right? Or going on vacation. And now their assets, they're saying, hey, we got a capital call. And they're like, capital call. For them, they don't even know.
What is that?
They've never heard a capital call before.
They're collecting checks, bro.
You know, they're going to have to chat GPT that shit.
My grandfather got that building. I'm just getting paid.
Yeah, I just get paid.
Don't even know why I was getting paid.
Yeah, and it's paid off. What are you talking about? Well, we got taxes, we got maintenance, we got insurance, and the rents don't cover it. And you're like, because normally, you know, like you have all your expenses. Those don't change. The values might change because what's that building worth? Like in San Francisco, 100,000 square foot building just traded for like $10 million. You can't build it for that. You can't build it for that.
That's insane.
And crazy. Right, but you also can't borrow 10% to buy that.
No,
because and the reason you can't borrow to buy that is it's not a stabilized asset. Like what are you going to do with it? It's not rented. If it was going to be converted over to residential, there's a market for that. But the problem is not all buildings can be converted.
Yeah.
So those are one of the weighing things on my mind is housing, office space, and my wife has a PhD in artificial intelligence. So we talk a lot about, and it's in my book that I wrote in 2016 about artificial intelligence. Once, like, if you go to San Francisco and we spend 3 days a week there, we live in Cathedral Hill when we're there, there's 300 cars that drive themselves, Waymos.
Yeah.
Completely drive themselves.
Which is freaky to me, by the way.
And they drive incredible.
I know.
We've been in them. They're super, you know.
I know.
It's like
still freaky to me.
Still very freaky. And sometimes they don't drive like a human. Like they'll cut you off in weird ways, and you're like, a human wouldn't do that, but they do. And I'm like, you think about how many people are in the transportation business.
I was just thinking
that are jobs, right? We got Lyft, Uber, every single product that moves around
will eventually
be not needing. And I'm all for human beings not doing mindless jobs. I'm all like that, right? But at the same time, the cost labor approach of value and economy, this new infrastructure of AI, it supersedes our current economic structure. Like there's no economy that works. And how do we hand out money? Who determines who's going to be rich, right? Like, doesn't matter. Like, there's 13 robots coming out next year, like humanoid type robots next year.
Oh,
and how many times does it have to learn how to cut your yard? One time, and it can teach every single robot. Literally, it becomes the network effect. I mean. It's and all the high ups know this at Apple, at Google, you know, the CTO of Microsoft that we're close. Like, we're all like, okay, people are going to be working like an hour or two, and we've got to figure out. Like, that's one thing that hits me every day, and it's the wrong question, but nobody's answering it. We need an economic solution that's going to take care of our seniors, that's going to give people purpose, because the biggest thing is suicide.
What happens when they have no purpose? That's my point.
No purpose.
How do you survive with no purpose?
Yeah.
And why do you want to survive with no purpose? If you're talking about an hour, like that's what scares me. My background's in psychology and sociology.
Oh no,
and that's me. And while you're on the top, I'm like, dude, I know, but what scares me about all this is what happens to all these people that lose their purpose.
Oh, like if my purpose was to I'm already past wealthy. I'm like 86 streams, like so what? I've had all the cars at any given time, 275 cars. So like I don't like. So for me, my driven purpose, and I say that with genuine conviction, is people are keeping me alive by being hungry to actually take opportunity on and do stuff. That excites me. So my purpose is helping people get there, whether it's buying a business or buying real estate or figuring out finance, like the leverage that gives people the tool to lift themselves out of poverty. what really gives me purpose, and I'm built for it, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you took that purpose, like I have no reason to do
What
anything.
would you want to? Yeah.
I have no reason to be
How
here.
would you not be on the ground?
Other than your invitation.
No, but today you'd be here, exactly.
I would be here for the purpose of hanging with you,
correct.
brother.
But I'd be doing it no matter what they create with AI. But I think it's so true, Andrew, because, and I was just said the other day, you start watching these cars, and when I'm in Vegas or Arizona, we see more of them, I'm like, wow, like what happens to all these people that move around in this industry? They just... And then they go get a job somewhere else, and it's like, no, that job's already taken by a robot too, and that job's taken by a robot too.
Yeah.
And we don't really need you to do anything per se.
Oh, you want to hear something crazy? South Korea. Right. Who do you think in the entire world has the most robot employees?
Well, you said South Korea, so I don't know.
I killed the punchline there.
I don't know that I would have guessed South Korea, but I would have guessed in that area. But
we're
okay.
like number 6, but 10%. 10%. Robots.
10%.
Doing the job. 10% of their workforce. Out of 10,000 people, this is all documented. 1,000 of them are robots.
Wow.
1,000. And they're moving at a rapid pace. So if 10% can be taken, that's 1,000 people that now don't, I mean, they're in food, restaurants, like making the burgers.
I don't know. As to what do those 1,000 people do with no purpose? People do stupid things with no purpose.
Well, yes.
They make bad decisions with no purpose because they have, to your point, nothing to. What does it matter?
Yeah, it's and you know some of the conversations up at the top, by billionaires are their conversation is that we'll dive deeper in the arts. They're all cool with this universal basic income, which I cover on my channel. Because my thing is, I don't care if you're homeless to a billionaire. I want to offer you something.
Okay.
Right. So an on-ramp to be able to get your life together to like making your whatever you're actualizing your dream, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't. But that's kind of the thing. And universal basic income, for some people, UBI is important, and we're testing it in probably, I don't know, 15 different cities right now. And I covered on my channel the cities so people can go get access to money if they need it. It's an interesting thing because they're failing. UBI is failing as a concept. It demotivates people.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps them from working. And then they live just on that, and they have less of a life. They're not really living.
I spent 14 years working with abused and neglected children and being in homes. 14 years. And I used to say to my and I would keep getting promoted, but I didn't want to get promoted too much because like I like what I was doing, and we didn't make no money anyway. So it was like, you make $48,000 a year. You just got promoted. You make $48,400. I was like, oh, congratulations! I have all this new responsibility. I had to get a master's degree for. But I would sit with families, and they would say to me, Sean, explain to me why I have food stamps, this section, I got this, I got that, and you want me to be like I'm making more money sitting here.
Yeah, I did a video on it.
Sitting still.
I think it's I don't know if Johnny knows, but it's like I added up all the total and I cover them in the video. I think it's about $12,875 that you can get per month if you get housing assistance, food stamps, medical. Because if you're under a threshold, like I pay $550 for my medical. If I didn't make any money, it'd be free.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Correct.
Just apply for it, which is why Walmart basically costs us so much money. They teach people, they pay them just under and teach them all the social benefits. I don't know. It's really been covered up in the media about how they've done that, but it happened when they had you had to offer like certain benefits based on how many employees you had, which was a Democrat idea that like you can't force businesses will figure out a way.
100%. They'll get around it.
They'll figure out a way. And Walmart did, and they made a system out of it, a training system. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want this to not be a monetized video or suppressed. because there's definitely censorship
Mm-hmm.
out there. So I've been cognizant of that in my social journey, that some things you can just see people getting suppressed, and you're like, okay, that's interesting.
You know what? First of all, you're like you're a really interesting dude. Like, I mean, that's the most, I mean, very complimentary. Like, you really are. I mean, I've watched a lot of your stuff, and you have a lot of really interesting perspective, and I love where it comes from and where you're going and what you mean. And you're legitimately, people always say to me, who do you look to be around? I said, because with all this artificial everything, there's a lot of artificial people giving you artificial information. And it's unfortunate because, you know, it's funny. I was talking to a guy earlier, and he's like, well, how did you, we started talking about, how did you learn how to do that? I'm like, well, dude, I went to town meetings to learn about land development. Like, there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm 52.
Yeah.
Like, I went to the meeting. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I drove my car to the meeting and sat in it. And I listened to planning and zoning and wetlands and the Board of Appeals, and I just took notes and stuff with pen and paper. It was pretty cool. And then I went back to my place. But I think the information you provide is amazing. You're really interested to talk to.
I just left to come before here.
Yeah.
I was with the county commissioner, about a development that's happening in front of my properties.
Really?
And going through, and the crazy thing is, I know the battles to fight. Ultimately the war. You got to think about the war, not the battles.
Amen.
Most people focus on the battles and get so caught up in the battle they forget the war.
Yeah.
So I knew that, all this stuff, because it's blocking some of the view at my property. And it's a big wake-up call for me, because it was an opportunity that sat right in front of me, and I knew it and just didn't work on it. And it was cool because, I know the commissioner. I've been in there for waivers and use, and I knew about the dock doors not being able to face the streets, and I knew about the fire that has to go around the building, or if you're going to close off a space to make it a zero lot line, that you need to turn around for the ladder truck. So there's just lots of stuff and what's funny is I'm talking about all this stuff, and we spend about an hour going through all this stuff, and Johnny, my camera guy, is like sitting there. We walks out, and he's like mind blown because we couldn't record it.
Yeah.
Because it's, behind closed doors, and, we're talking about, we're neighbors. They're trying to listen to both neighbors and handle this stuff. It's going to block one of the cell towers that I have, that I've got a tenant that's going to have a block cell tower. So there's some consequences, and, the owner's he's wanting to build a 96,000 square foot building. I get it. I've built same. I get it. I know exactly where he's at. He has 800 employees. I know exactly what that feels like. I know, and then I get the commissioner's job. I mean, I get all the pieces. I know about the civil engineering. I've put in roads and streets and fire hydrants and the whole stuff. I think the big thing for me, and I'm so glad you said that, but I wanted to be a speaker when I was like 16, 18 years old. And I looked at Tony Robbins, and then I did a deep dive into his background. And at the time he was talking, he had no experience.
Correct.
He was winging it.
Yep.
And he was a Fugazi, and I have mad respect for him now, know him, love him, and have a lot of respect for him now. But he had to learn all the 100%. Business stuff going through the process of his business. He had to lose it all, make mistakes, and he did all the stuff. The difference for me was I wanted everything that I say to be backed up. Right? I've started more than 32 companies in 17 completely different industries. I bought 17 companies, 5 exits. I'm currently buying businesses. I'm building businesses as we speak. I have an engineering team building Transaction Room, which is not even monetized, to help people find businesses in real estate. I make no money off of it. I'm spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in like payroll to make this product to help people find businesses, so baby boomers can sell their business effectively.
It's great.
I have Grant Velocity, which I'm building. Again, not monetized, make no money off of it, to help people find grant money. Did you know there's that $1.8 billion was a grant, they literally, to study racism?
1.8 billion.
$1.8 billion.
Wow, I did not know that.
To study racism. Like, you can chat GPT that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just ask 10 people. You know, it's like
1.8 billion. Wow.
1.8 billion. I could have saved them a lot of money.
Right.
Right. It's like it's pretty. It is what it is. Like you need to study that. Another one that's really crazy: grant money, because there's free money given away. Elon got $5 billion from the state of Nevada. $5 billion. Like he needed that. Right. So, and people don't realize this, and I've watched it because even at our household, we've brought in a little over 500 million. 480 million was the first grant that we got, and then we got more. But there's so much money out there that is like given away that's unbelievable. Housing, you can build houses, and literally if you have below market rents and you keep it there for 10 years, they completely forgive the debt. The grant program for that you can build affordable housing that exists. Yes. And here's a crazy one. $827,000 to study the effects of Japanese quail on cocaine.
Stop.
I kid you not. University of Kentucky. Look it up. That people, you know, they have fixed ideas about what
I could have done that. I've done more cocaine than any quail. I could have given you all kinds of advice on that.
So here's what the result of the study was. It took them 6 years to do it. The result was that it has the same characteristics as humans.
Yeah, shocker.
Risky sexual behavior.
I could have told him that. So, dude,
you needed $827,000 and a bunch of college students.
I could have done that for free.
I could have done that for free because I got friends.
Dude, I'll tell you what. I could talk to you all day long. You're unbelievable, and we gotta get you back on. How do people find you?
Andrew Cartwright. Just look
you up, hit you up. Real estate, investing, money,
credit,
help.
How to like create business accounts. How to be a ghost. I got one on ghost because I've financed a lot of ghosts in my life. That's somebody who has no credit score. Yeah. And I've helped people become ghosts too.
Dude, y'all got to find them. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all on Pick Money the podcast. Andrew, you're a stud, dude. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share, follow him. I'm sure you already do. Check his stuff out. I promise you it'll change your life.